learn directing and technical directing. I'm Seth Biley. I'm the news director. I'll be going over directing.
I'm Tim Banzon. I'm the operations manager, and I'll be going over technical directing.
All right, so let's get into directing. All right, so looking at the job of a director, basically you have a lot of things to do. You are the leader of the whole show. So what happens is you have the producers and the directors. The producers are in charge of writing the show upstairs. But when the show comes down to you as the director, you are in charge. So your role is kind of multifaceted. You have to inspire confidence to everyone around you and also stay on top of the show as it develops. And I'm going to get into kind of what that means. So looking at the tools as a director, first off, this is your little area. You're in charge of running the production line, so talking to all of your people. You can have the phone line, IFBs between your talent, and you also will be using this laptop, which I think is kind of off screen right now, and punching the show live. We'll go into more of that once you're actually here. Now, the things that you will get is a rundown and a script, which is right here. So when you look at your rundown, this is going to be the blueprint of your show. So if you've got bare bones, and then the script is your everything. So as a director, you need to pay attention to both of them. You will hand out your rundown to your entire crew. So going over your rundown, this is kind of how you will mark it. It's the first thing you will do. And excuse me, I haven't done this since March, so it might take me a second. But first off, what you got to do is over here in the spot where it says camera, what you're going to do is mark where you're going for each one of these stories. So for an open, you're going to go to VTR 1. Oh, and I will say the first thing you want to notice is things are going to be a little different in the studio this year, but the general rule of thumb is you've got 3 cameras, 1, 2, and 3. Here's your set. So with your set and your cameras, you want to always do cross shots for your single shots, all right? So you've got medium close-ups, 2 shots, and OTSs, and we'll get into what those mean in a second. So for your 1 shots, you want to do cross shots like this. What a lot of directors do is they write this at the top of their rundown, and then they mark where their talent are. So for example, you would have your male talent over here on the right and your female talent on the left. This may change depending on what type of show you're doing or depending on your talent in general. So for today, we've got Derek and Jacqueline, I think. I'm pretty sure. We've also got Ben Taylor on weather. So with that in mind, you've got camera 1 on your male talent. That's going to be Derek. Camera 3 on your female talent. And that's going to be Jacqueline. So for your welcomes, that's always going to be a 2-shot. So you're going to welcome in both your talent. So that'll be on camera 2. Then for camera 3, or story 3, you're going to go to camera 1. And this is something else you need to pay attention to as a director. You've got your graphics column right here. So you've got an OTS. What I always do is underline the OTS so I don't forget about it. And then I put a little line here and I call this a push OTS. So what that'll tell the camera operator to do is whenever they come to their shot, they're going to wait for you as the director to call out push OTS, and they will transition their camera. Now, coming to story 4, we're done with that. We've got camera 3, and then we've got a package over here in the video/graphics column. What I'll do is the same thing. I'll put a little drawn out area here, and I'll put VTR 1. That will tell your entire crew that during this story, you're going to go from camera 3 to VTR 1, and on most times there's something called a tag out. So what you will do is you'll come back to camera 3. We'll show you kind of what that looks like when we get to the script, but this is how you will write it on your rundown. Now, for story 5, we're doing a weather toss that is 2-shot. So for welcomes, it's just naturally a 2-shot, but every other shot in the show, you will see where it says 2-shot. So that's going to be on camera 2. Now, Going over here to first look, that's going to be on the monitor with Ben. So you have to call out what camera is going to move to the monitor with Ben. For the normal show, that would be camera 1 as your monitor shot. So camera 1, instead of being on your male talent over here, camera 1 will have moved and panned their shot to get the monitor. So Ben will do weather over here. Now for story 7, that's going to be the A block tees. So we're going to go back to camera 2 because it's a 2-shot, and that'll be the end of the block. So that's how you mark a rundown. There's lots of little other things you want to also consider, such as like where you're going to bring up your lower thirds or IDs. So whenever you come to your first 2-shot during your welcomes, you're always going to bring up a lower third. And whenever you first identify a talent that's not your main talent, such as a live shot reporter or a weather anchor or a sports anchor or an entertainment anchor, what you're going to do is you're going to identify them first. So you're going to put a lower third on Ben here for weather. That is, lower thirds are the least of your worries. You can do them or not. The show can go on without them, so do not stress about that on your first day. We want to get them right, but if we don't, it's not the end of the world. So that's an A block. You will go on and do that for the rest of your rundown, but we'll go over that on your first day of directing. So that's your rundown. Moving on to the script. The script is very important. I've worked with a few directors that have worked professionally, and they always recommend you do one thing, and I will give you everybody one of these on their first day, is a red marker. Right now I have a red Expo marker. I normally like red Sharpies. I usually steal them from Which Wich, but you know, you got to do what you got to do. So this is what a script looks like. A script is every story on your rundown broken down by page. Makes sense. It's pretty self-explanatory. So when you come over here to your rundown, you see a few things. First of all, I'm on story 2 right now. I always get rid of story 1, the one that says open headlines, because it's just our standard headlines. It's preference, it's director preference, but there's a little things you can kind of do differently depending on what you want. What I do is I always get rid of story 1, and I add VTR at the top in bold. Then what I do is I draw arrows on my script to show where the story is progressing to. So story 1 will be on VTR 1, then I'm going to go to camera 2 with my welcomes, and then next to it, I'm going to write what I'm doing with that shot. What I'm doing for that shot is I'm adding a lower third, so I'm going to put L3 next to it. So this is going to be my shot sheet for story 2. Now, just to get ahead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add where I'm coming to for story 3. So for story 3, I'm going to have in the bottom right corner, I'm going to write 1-push OTS. Now as a director, what you do with your script is you set your rundown where you can see it, and you flip through your script as you go. The best way to do that is to just flip over such as that. So we've got a push OTS on our next shot for story 3. What I'm going to do now is similar to what I just did on the last one. I've got in the top left corner right under the story slug, I'm going to write 1-push OTS. Then that's all I have for that story. For story 4, I'm going to write the camera instructions in the bottom right corner of story 3. And that is going to be camera 3. And that's all I need. Now, what I'll do next is for story 4, we come to camera 3. And also, I don't know if anyone can see this on the video, but there's an OTS marked on story 4, but it's not in my rundown. As a director, it's your job to check for inconsistencies put together by the producers. So right here is an OTS, but it's not on my rundown. What I would do as the director is then ask the producer who would be sitting behind me, what's up, basically? Where is this OTS? Is it actually in the show? And go from there. So we're going to ignore that for today, but that's what you would do in a real situation. For story 4, we're on camera 3, and then right here you see a package. You're going to write what VTR you're coming to, and then this is what I was talking about. This is a tag out after. So you're going to go to camera 3 afterwards, and then I'm going to do the same thing as I've been doing. I'm going to write where I'm going with camera 2 for the next story. So for story 5, I'm on camera 2. And then this is the toss the weather. What I will do next is write 1-monitor at the bottom. So I make sure that as a director, I know that after this toss, camera 1 needs to be at the monitor. So first look is usually blank. The weather anchors will ad-lib this, so you just will learn the flow for it. So I write camera 1 in bold and then lower third, since this is the first time you'll be seeing Ben, your weather anchor. Then coming off of that, you're going to be going to camera 2 for the A-block tease. A-block tease. At the end of the teases, the one thing you also want to remember is you're going to bring your audio. They're going to bring up music under. And we'll go over that in depth later on. But it's good to remember while you're watching this video and learning ahead of time. So that's your A-block. That's kind of how script writing goes. And that's the general gist of it. We'll kind of check back in a little bit, and I'll show you kind of what it looks like to call a show. But that's the pre-production side of it. And now I'm going to turn it over to Tim, and he's going to talk a little bit about how to punch a show.
All right, so this is y'all's board right here. The main thing I want to tell you guys is you're going to be mainly working on this kind of section here. So section 1 is where you're going to be working most of the shows. Section 2, I like to say, is where you're going to be building stuff. So that's the kind of the basic layout. My right hand's usually over here, my left hand's here. Basic punch-ins, so this is row 1, this is row 2. So if you can see this little red light right here, that means that's what's on program, and down here is what's on preview. So the difference between the two is that what's on program is what's going to be live. So what I did right there is I hot punched. You don't really want to do that at the live of the show, but in certain scenarios it could be helpful, but in any case you don't want to be doing that. What you want to do is have whatever your shot's going to be next on preview. So on the bottom here, it's on preview. Let's say I want cam 1 on preview. You would hit cut on the right side right here, and then that would cut to your program. As you can see on the bottom here, it also switched as well. So that's how you cut in between the two shots. All right, so this is your keys right here, key 1, key 2, key 3, and key 4. What I like to think of these keys is they're like hotkeys, and the way you kind of figure those keys is what you do on the bottom here is you press. Let's say I want key 3, for example, to be on expression. I would press the top row right here. It'll be on expression, as you can see here. And then key 4 would be M1. So press that over there. And then when you press it, you can see that it actually pulls up on both screens. Press it again, comes down. Same thing for M1, pulls up right there, pulls down. Then again, if you want to tie something, here, let me actually pull something up. That way there you see something. If you want to tie something, what you do is you bring it in. And the main thing you want to make sure of is when you're tying stuff is you're tying the right things. So I have sometimes like fat finger. That's probably not the best term. I hot punch something kind of wrong, and then I'm tying the wrong thing. So what I like to do is just make sure you're tying the right thing. So let's say I want to tie that lower third. You just press these two buttons, a background and key 4. That way you see it's on program. Then when I cut away, it's out, untie it, boom. Then I want to tie, let's say, the expression, bring that up, go ahead and tie these two together, and then cut to the next shot, and you can see it's out of there, and then untie it. All right, so I'm going to be talking about OTSs and how to pull them up. So right here, I have my keyers. I have expression on key 4, so whenever you bring it up, the graphics is not pulled up right now, so I can pull it up and nothing's going to happen, and then I'll also tie it. What that does is it's going to have the graphic on program and not on preview. Now if the director says push, bring in the OTS, you can see it brings in the OTS just like that smoothly. And then if I cut to the next shot in cam 2, it brings out that OTS, and then he can take it down. And then if I untie it, he just presses background button right here. But it's, I mean, he already took it off, but that's how you would untie something. So that's the essentials of the OTSs. And again, it's going to take some practice between the director, the TD yourself, and the graphics person in order to get that kind of smooth transition in. But again, that's kind of what practices all for, but that's kind of the basics of the OTSs and tying it together. The one thing I kind of wanted to go over before starting all this is if you're, let's say you're over here and you kind of mess some buttons up, you don't know what you're doing, or you might kind of press something up here and that messes something up or anything like that, there are two ways to actually reset the board to its main state. So the first way is pressing on this row right here, on this right side, you press store and recall. Just press these two buttons at the same time. As you can see, it resets the first layout down here on section 1. Section 2, you do the same thing up here, resets the board up here as well, and that's how it resets. The second way to reset it, what I usually like to do, is since it's a quick 1-2 button, there's a menu button up here on the way at top of the board. Just hold that down. On the left side, it says reset all. Once you hit that, it basically resets the entire board. So if you ever mess up or anything like that, let's say you misclick a key or you misclick something and you're trying to figure something out and it's all over the place and you just want to restart, just reset those two boards. It's kind of like the safe way to just restart at what you're doing. So the next thing I want to go over is green screen basics and how to chroma key. So it's pretty simple. I mean, what you mainly want to do is what you're working on down here. You want to have program an ME1 because that's where we usually have our green screen setup. And camera 3 is usually what we have our green screen on chroma keyed. So what you do here is you build the chroma key up in section number 2. So what you want to do is this row here is going to be your background. So my background, I want to have camera 3. And then I want expression, which is going to be the weather or whatever graphics there is, that's going to be the foreground. So you press that. And then usually I like to have N1 as the next one just because you can switch between the two. So you hit chroma key here. Oh, I guess you hit chroma key first. And then you hit cam 3 up here. Then you switch this little baby up here to green, and then you hit initialize. And then the last thing you got to do is on the right side here, because nothing's pulled up, you pull this up, and boom, on the screen it's all chroma keyed. So that's kind of the basics of chroma keying up there. And again, if you mess up at all, just reset the board. So that's the basics of kind of the technical directing board. There's definitely a lot more to this board than there is, like double boxes and all that jazz. That's way more advanced, so if you want to learn more about that, just talk to any of the directors up there. We'll go ahead and teach you that. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. Hope it made sense.
All right, so now Tim and I are going to give you a little demonstration of how the director and the TD work together and how the director makes calls and the TD follows. So Tim, just so you know, we're going to do the A block that I already marked up a little bit ago. Ready, VTR 1. And just so you know, as you're listening to this, these are not only calls for Tim, the TD, but calls for all the positions around me. So I'm going to be calling audio cues, VTR cues, and camera cues. So it's okay if you have questions and this is a little much. I'd watch this section at least once or twice and then ask Tim and I questions whenever you come in for your shift. All right, so ready, VTR 1?
Ready.
Take VTR 1, roll VTR 1. Stand by camera 2. Ready, camera 2, and take camera 2. Lower third in. Lower third down. Ready, camera 1. Camera 1, this is going to be a push OTS. And take 1. Push OTS. For the sake of this, it's going to be our weather graphic. As Tim demonstrated earlier, that's just an XP graphic. It could be changed. Bring OTS down.
Oop.
Ready, camera 3. Take 3 Q. All right, ready, VTR 1 with package. Roll package, take VTR. All right, so one of the things I didn't say when we were talking about your script is underneath each section where it says package, you'll have a total runtime and a out cue. For this one, it says SO, that means standard out cue. A standard out cue is whenever your reporter or whoever's making the packages says, for so-and-so, for ntTV News, this is Seth Biley, or for CNN, this is Jeff Bezos. I mean, it's kind of whoever it is doing that package. That will be your standard out cue. After they do the out cue, you can take it back on camera. So ready, camera 3. This is the tag out. Take 3 Q. Ready, 2. Take 2 Q. All right, now we're on the toss the weather. They're tossing, ready 1, ready Ben at the monitor. And take 1 cue, bring in Ben's lower third down, ready XP to bring graphics full, graphic full. And go back to 1, ready camera 2, and take 2. All right, so for the A block teases, this is where you would do what's called music under. I'd say music under. The audio person would bring up the canned ntTV music. That would go under. So for going out of breaks, this is a little different than what you would normally do a show or a VTR hit. What we do is we bring up VTR2. And what we would normally do is VTR2 would be black right now. So I would say fade to black, and then I would say roll VTR2. So your VTR operator will then roll the commercials after you take black. This violates some principles that you will follow for the rest of your show. But what that does is it adds a standard dip to black transition between your show and your commercials. So it makes sense once you think about it, but it does break a few of your rules in your own head. So that is going to be your standard A block, and we'll go more in depth with you on how to direct and call once you come in for your shift. So thanks for joining us today. Again, I'm Seth Biley. I'm the news director. If you have any questions, let me know.
Tim Banzon, operations manager. If you have any questions, let me know. If I don't know, he'll know.
Fair enough. And we hope to see you guys at kickoff or just around.